Text expansion is an easy way to automate and level up your writing. Hey there, this is Justin with Effective Remote Work, and today we're going to take a look at Espanso, a free open source text expansion software that's available cross platform on macOS, Windows, and Linux. We're going to install Espanso from scratch and configure it so that you can get an idea of how this all works together. Do be aware this gets a little bit nerdy because Espanso uses a Unix-based configuration, which means that it uses text files to configure the application. However, don't get too scared of this because it's fairly straightforward to do. You just have to be okay getting into the command line and editing some files a little bit as well. First, let's get started by installing Espanso. I'm on macOS, so we're going to follow the macOS installation instructions. They have instructions for both Linux and Windows as well. So if you're interested or on one of those platforms, feel free to follow those. But today we're going to take a look at how to install it on macOS. You can install Espanso using Homebrew or manually. I would definitely recommend using Homebrew because it's a lot easier to manage. But if you don't want to use Brew, there are manual installation instructions down here that you can follow. The first thing we're going to do is to tap the Espanso keg for Homebrew. So that's Brew, tap, Federico, Terzi, Espanso. I apologize if I completely butchered your name pronunciation there. So what this does is it caches the proper repositories for Espanso. I've done this once before, so you're not necessarily going to see the output here, but you will see some output from Brew when you're tapping the Espanso keg. Next, we're going to install Espanso using Brew install Espanso. This may take a moment. And now that we have access to the command line, we can go Espanso version, and then we get Espanso 0.7.1. Great, we have the software installed. However, there's a couple of extra steps on macOS that you need to go through. You have to enable accessibility in order to use Espanso. This is pretty standard for almost every application anymore that does anything on macOS because Apple's locked it down. So what we're going to do is type in Espanso register, which will register the software on the computer, and then we can open system preferences. And you're going to see all the behind the scenes stuff here. I'm going to log in. And then all you got to do is click the checkbox next to Espanso under accessibility. What that does is it allows Espanso to access special APIs on macOS so that it can actually perform the text expansion. We'll head back over to Espanso over here and the command line. So then the next thing we're going to do once we've completed that step is type Espanzo Start. So this starts the application running in the background. And if you go up to the menu bar here, you see the big E that we can see we have Espanso running. Now we can type :Espanso right here, and we get hi there. The next place to end up is the Getting Started tutorial. So we'll open that. And the guides here are actually pretty great. They do a great job of explaining what Espanso is doing, what the expectations are when you start up your computer. Espanso will be loaded up automatically. But if you're not sure, you can type in Espanso status, if I could type correctly, and it will tell you if Espanso is running or not. If Espanso is not running, you just type Espanzo Start. But that's not going to do anything because it's already running. Something to keep in mind as we begin the configuration process is that Espanso uses triggers to trigger your text expansion. It's the same as if you use Text Expander or Alfred or whatnot for your text expansion. You type in a trigger phrase and then it will replace that text. So like in the example over here on the left side of the screen, if you type in :date, it will replace it to today's date. Probably the most important thing to be aware of is where your configuration files are located on your machine. On macOS, which is where we're looking, it's under Home, Library, Preferences, Espanso. We are literally just going to copy that over into the terminal. So we'll do CD to change directory, and then paste that directory there. And then now we're in the Espanso directory. If I type in ls to list the files there, you see that we have default.yml and user as a folder. Default.yml or YAML is the configuration file that we're looking for. And this is in a YAML syntax. I'm going to open up Vim just to kind of keep everything in one pane here so that you can see what's going on without opening it up in a separate text editor. If you're not comfortable jumping into Vim, feel free to use any text editor. You can download BB Edit, which has a free version on Mac OS. You can use VS Code. I wouldn't recommend using a software like TextEdit because it tends to save files in more of a rich text format. You want to use a text editor, not necessarily a rich text editor for this, because YAML is extremely sensitive to formatting. You don't want tab characters in YAML. You want to make sure you have the proper amount of spacing and keeping things at the right indentation, so on and so forth. So I'm going to type vim default.yaml and get this open here. And here is our base configuration file. So you can see that under the matches node, we are indented 2 spaces, and then each trigger has a dash. And then you can see trigger Espanso, which is what we ran in the command line, and it replaced with hi there. You can also do dates in here. So the trigger can be :date, and then replace with my date, which is in 2 curly brackets. And this is how Espanso handles variables. Then in a separate node down here called vars, you can define that variable. So you define the variable my date, which is used up here, then the type of that variable, which is a date, and then the format. So it's a fairly standard format if you're used to text file type configuration for dates. So you have %m for the month, %d for the day, and then %Y for the year. The capital is important there. I'm just going to adjust this because I don't like this date format generally. I like to use $year dot %month dot %day. I like that format personally because it easily sorts. If you're sorting a file structure by name, then it will automatically sort either in ascending or descending order by date. So it starts with 2019, then 2020, and then under each one of those it goes, January 01, 02, 03, 04, and then by day. So you always have them in order. I really like that chronological order that this date format allows me to have. So I'm changing that here, and then I'm just going to save in Vim. The other thing that you can do as well is that if you have some commands that you run on the bash shell or something like that, you can run those commands using Espanso. Here's an example one of how that works. You have :shell as your trigger, output as your variable, and then down here we've defined output, or the text file has defined that, the default config has defined it as a type shell, and then parameters. Then you have commands underneath of that, and this is the command that runs on the system. So it goes echo hello from your shell. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit this, and we're just going to type in the shell here. We're going to go date, and you can see we have that new date format, 2020, 09, 08. Then if we do shell, hello from your shell. Now you might be interested to figure out what's going on behind the scenes there. It's basically doing this, echo hello from your shell, and it's just outputting that response. So if we did echo hi from effective remote work, we would get the same output that we put in. So it's fairly easy to create your own matches as well. One that I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some URLs that I use very frequently. So we'll go back into Vim. And then to create a new command, I'm just going to go to a new line, make sure I'm indented properly, trigger. And then I like to use semicolons just because I don't have to shift. I can just do semicolon. And then when I do I have Alfred turned on, so that's not going to help right now. Because I'm switching over from Alfred on Mac OS to Espanso, largely because I don't have access to my Alfred snippets on my Linux machine or on any other operating system that I'm using. So this will be pretty easy to do. One thing I will do is ERW. That's one I don't have quite set up yet. Then I'll do replace, and then it will be HTTPS effective remotework.com. And then we'll save that and exit. And if I could do semicolon ERW, I think I have to reload the script once I have changed it. Yep, Espanso restart. Okay, so then we'll do ERW. Then we get https://effectiveremotework.com. So if you're adding new Espanso text expansion triggers and snippets, you do have to remember to type in and restart the configuration by typing in Espanso restart, or you can go up to the menu bar item and hit reload configs, which does the exact same thing. If you're looking for a quick way to edit Espanso files, you can go Espanso edit, and we'll open it up in Nano, which is a command line file editor. As I mentioned, I'm a fan of Vim, but you can edit this file in any text editor that you want. If you're looking for the path of the file, you can go Espanso path, and it will output the configuration, package, and data locations on your system for Espanso, and you're looking at the configuration one. So if you open up a different text editor and you want to browse to that path, you just browse there, and then you can open up the default .yml file to edit your configuration. Something cool about Espanso that other text expansion softwares have done is you can create packages of text expansions and share them with other people. So you can add emojis, you can add other Espanso packages that other people have shared. We'll just take a quick look at the Espanso hub so you can see them. You can have all emojis, HTML utilities, lorem ipsum. You can have a shrug emoticon, so on and so forth. There are lots of them that have been shared here, and you can create your own too as well. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but we'll just install basic emojis for now so you can see how that works. So Espanso install basic emojis. That installs the package. Then we have to restart Espanso because we've modified our configuration. And there we go. So now I can type in, as the example says, okay, and I get lots of thumbs up. If I do LOL, then I get a laughing face, so on and so forth. If you're a team or a small group of people who are using the same types of responses, you can create those packages yourself. You'll have to look into that a little bit further in the packages documentation if you're interested in going that route and share them with one another. The last thing I wanted to talk about is how you can sync Espanso. And there are guides for that here on the site, which I'll get into. It gets a little tricky to think about, more so because you have Espanso, it's looking for these configuration files in this specific directory, but to sync them, you have to put those files in another place. So in order to do that, you have to have some kind of symbolic linking. What's a symbolic link? Well, it is a reference to a file in another place. So if I have a link from this Espanso directory over to Dropbox or say a Git repository, my Espanso files will live in Dropbox or that Git repository. And then this symbolic link for this folder will basically have the file operating system and the Espanso application behave as if they're stored in the default configuration directory, even though they're in a different folder. It's basically just a little pointer in that directory that says, hey, look at this specific directory over here for the files that you're looking for. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to my home directory by CDing, I'm going to make dir, say Espanso. Actually, instead, what I'm going to do, according to the guide, they actually recommend that you move the configuration preferences folder somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this directory, copy that. So go MV for move, paste that there, and then I'm going to put a dot to move that file to the local directory, my main directory on my home directory on macOS. So then if I ls there, then which lists the directory, you can see I have the Espanso directory there. Then what I'm going to do is, according to this here, this is the command that you use to make a symbolic link. So we're going to ln link -s for a symbolic link. We'll do Espanso since we're in our home directory. And then we'll just copy this line here. So we've got ln-s Espanso, and then home library preferences Espanso. This $ home is a variable inside of bash or whatever shell that you're using that points to your home directory. I'm going to run this command and then I'll show you exactly what that does. So then we'll go echo home, and echo will just output the contents of that variable. So you can see that it's users Justin DeRose. So it's just appending this automatically here, but it's an easy way to share those commands so that everybody can use them without having to customize them yourself. So we'll go after, since we moved those configurations files, we'll go Espanso restart. Okay, so we have an issue here. Let's see, file exists. So more than likely we have an issue with Espanso not seeing that file, and maybe the move command didn't work properly. So we'll go cd here. Too many levels of symbolic links. Okay, so preferences. We're just doing some on-screen troubleshooting here. Okay, so we'll remove Espanso. And then we'll do our F, since that's recurring and force for a directory. We'll remove that. Go back to the home directory. We'll try the ln-s command again. So we'll try it a different way. We'll go home Espanso. Whoop. Not what I wanted to do. Home Espanso. And then we'll do this again here and see if that works. Whoops. Okay. Got to restructure the command because you can't have an open quote. Okay, so now I think I have that sorted out. So ln-s home Espanso, home library preferences Espanso. Okay, now we'll try Espanso restart. There we go. Okay, so you might have to go in and remove the Espanso directory from home library preferences Espanso if you're having issues with that afterwards. Now, if we type in date, we get the date. If we type in ERW, we get that. We get all of our stuff that we have, which is fantastic. Then if I go into the Espanso directory, in my home directory, I can git init that if I want to make that a Git repository, and then I could hook that up with GitHub or GitLab or something of the sort if I want to sync these files using Git. If you move that file or folder into Dropbox, Google Drive, iCloud Drive, SyncThing, or so on and so forth, any sync service, you can do the same thing. And then you have those text expansion preferences synced to any other computer. There's a lot of power in Espanso here. We have only scratched the surface of what this software can do. If you're interested in going further, I definitely recommend reading through all of the documentation here on the site. There are tons of categories. You can use forms. You can dive into deeper configuration, passive mode, which is basically the ability to expand matches after typing them instead of in real time. So you can type them in and then press a special hotkey and then basically expand them all. So that way it could be a little bit easier to handle all of the expansions in a block of text that you're working on. If you found this video helpful, be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment below. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you want to see from this channel in the future. Again, my name is Justin with Effective Remote Work, and thanks so much for watching.